All right, a little about block sanding. One thing I've learned is that body work is actually very hard. It's very technique based, and the only way to develop that technique is usually through trial and error. And you really don't see the end result until you're done and it's painted, at which point you're not really ready to take all the paint off and do all the prep again. But there are a few little things I've learned along the way that I want to share. Again, this is just kind of what I found out has been working for me. I've never had any real training in any body work. This is all just seat of the pants learning. So a few things I have here. I have some different sanding blocks. I have a 12-inch and I don't know, I guess a 5-inch or so, or 11 and 5, something like that. And I have 320 grit sandpaper on these. It comes in a strip and you adhesive it on. It looks like this. And I use some small pieces with just the adhesive that I'll actually like put on my hand. I'll actually stick it to my hand and I'll do some sanding with that too. So a few big things to point out are that we have to be real careful around the curves. You know, I guess someone who's really good at body work has spent a lot of time analyzing and understanding curves. Cars have concave curves. The top of the fender here is concave, and of course they have convex curves here. Then there's different types. You know, this crease line is a very sharp curve, whereas this is a pretty gentle curve. And generally, we always want to go in the direction so that the sanding block is crosswise to, you know, where the curve is going to be. So for this part here, we're going to kind of be going in this direction. We're never going to do it this way. If we do it this way, we're going to create a flat spot, a ridge right across that curve. Or if we go this way, our hand is forced to move the block and contour as it goes around the curve. On the hood, where it's really a very gentle curve, it's a little bit harder because I have sometimes been going kind of back and forth this way along with this way. And actually I'll show you, there's some techniques I've seen online where you kind of go in a zigzag pattern. That's been a little complex for me to do. I get, it's like chewing gum and walking at the same time. So what I do is I've been doing kind of a lot of diagonal in one direction and then diagonal in the other direction. And especially, so you get a little bit of a crosshatch pattern, and especially on these large, broad panels, that diagonal seems to work because then you're kind of going across the curve in both directions. And I've been usually using the larger block here first, kind of to see where the high spots are. This primer that I put down has some splatters and some spots, so also part of this process is to sand down those high spots so it's a smooth surface for the paint. And also, the other idea is that you want to, this 320 grit is a kind of a good scratch size for the paint to fill. So you kind of want to make sure that everything is, at least lightly sanded so that you're ready for paint. So I will just give a little bit of a demonstration. I'm wearing a dust mask because you don't want to breathe this fine dust. I actually normally have the vacuum cleaner running and I can kind of vacuum clean while I'm doing this, but I'll probably leave the vacuum cleaner off for a little while now. So to work on this corner of the hood, I'm going to start. And I'm just going to kind of go back and forth. And you're going to see that as the high spots start coming off, the color changes a little bit. And now I'm going to switch directions and just keep moving my way up. And I'm not applying much pressure, just gentle pressure. And I can see a few things happening here. I don't know how well the camera picks it up. There's a little bit of a dark spot here. This is actually a little bit of a high spot of the hood, so it's removing material here, but there's still kind of a little bit of texture where it hasn't removed that much material right here. There's not a whole lot I can do about that. I could give it another layer of primer or a little body color or something. But at this point, I'm ready to paint the car, so I'm not going to spend the time to do that. So that's just something to be aware of. Now that I've done a fair amount with that, again, this is where I would vacuum it up. I'll vacuum up this. So I've got kind of the center part I was sanding, but we still have to do a little bit more around the edges. That's where I'll use the smaller block. And I can do a little bit more kind of right up to the edge, both directions. Now, using the smaller sanding block, it's not going to be able to keep everything as level. So I'm being a little lighter on my pressure, and I'm really just focusing on, just a few areas that I'm trying to hit. And then the last step, I have actually a recent piece of sandpaper that I tore off of the long sanding block that wasn't that badly used. This is like a good piece to stick to my glove. And then I'm going to kind of by hand come right up along the very edges. And this way I can curl my fingers a little bit as I go around the edge and use this very light pressure. And then I'm going to kind of finish up by doing long strokes in a straight horizontal or straight parallel direction, usually in the longest direction of the panel, so that kind of all the final scratch lines are all in a straight line in one direction. I know that visually scratches in the same direction help hide imperfections, as opposed to circular scratches. When the light hits it, as the light hits the scratches, if they're circular, it's hitting in all different, or it hits the scratch, it'll reflect back in all different directions. And so it looks, that's why cars with swirl marks or things like that kind of stand out as looking not as good. And a lot of it is just because of the way the scratches are. If there was the same type of scratches, but they were all linear on a straight line, your eye wouldn't pick it up. So that's kind of the technique that I've been using. So I'll keep working and let the video run for a little while. This hand technique is also good for, like this fine detailing here. I can apply pressure with like one finger to get right into that groove. I can even fold the sandpaper or roll the sandpaper. Sometimes that helps as well. And the point of sanding the primer is, again, to make it smooth. This is a high fill primer, a high build primer, which kind of help fill some little imperfections, things like that. So again, the sanding is to take down the high spots to make it a little bit more level, and then of course to give the paint a good surface to adhere to.